All right, for political reaction on some of this, we're joined now by the ANC's national spokesperson, Pule Mabe. A very good evening to you, Mr. Mabe, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's just hear your thoughts on what the president has announced. A great deal has been in the offing. Is it timely?
Evening and evening to your viewers. Of course, we do welcome what one would refer to as packages of interventions that our government is going to be really introducing as part of dealing with the energy crisis. The president was quite practical on the things that need to happen. We must also comment the fact that when within the presidency, they've already established the National Electricity Crisis Committee led by the Director General, which now begins to bring together all of the departments to make sure that it's all hands on deck, but also contribute towards the renewal of red tape. So in the past, the president spoke about removing red tape. So today, he took the nation into his own confidence and now outlined the things that has to be done at the level of power stations, the things that need to be done by households, going as far as saying that the households and businesses will be incentivized for doing rooftop solar installation just by way of selling their access energy or access power back to Eskom through a structure that the Eskom will be working on. This really will encourage South Africans to also start investing in renewables, because they will just start to see some form of tax guarantees of sorts. But the president went on to say that dealing with energy security is part of making sure that one will contribute towards economic recovery, retain the much-needed jobs that we need to be able to take our economy further forward. So the measures introduced are really welcomed, and we all will be watching closely and hope that Eskom and everyone else involved in dealing with this thing are going to really commit their efforts towards making sure that the plan that the president has unveiled is ultimately realized. This goes to show that the ANC-led government cares about the plight of the people of South Africa, and that it will do everything else in its power to make sure that it deals and addresses the electricity challenges that our people are really facing now.
We speak now to, thank you very much, Pule Mabe, national spokesperson of the ANC. Let's speak now to UDM leader BANTU HOLOMISA. What is your reaction to what the president announced, Mr. HOLOMISA, and how different is it from the integrated resource plan of 2019 that has been embellished over the past couple of months?
The president, let me put it this way, we had a privilege this morning of being briefed by the president on the plan which he is announcing today. Yes, it can work if he has people who will be able to implement the plan. Unfortunately, we've had such good plans in the past, but we are always handicapped by the lack of implementation. In the meeting this morning, I did ask the president that we need to establish or agree on what kind of national interest we have as South Africans, because when you go to USA, Europe, China, Russia, all over, you will find that the energy mix in those countries would include, among others, coal, renewable energy, as well as nuclear energy. I said there is an opportunity in this country because we have that infrastructure or that resource. Why don't we look into the whole setup holistically with a view to say, yes, coal, yes, this, notwithstanding that there is a call from international community to move towards renewable energy, but we must also look at what other countries are doing. Right now, those so-called developed world countries are ordering coal from South Africa because they have realized that renewable energy alone cannot be trusted. So I hope that in the long term, the government or the South Africans, let me put it that way, will be able to say we are going to use or invest on nuclear energy. So to make sure that we don't experience this nonsense we have been experiencing since 2013 of load shedding. Then we get people from the developed world coming here, lobbying, don't use nuclear, but at their backyard, they are using nuclear energy. So we need to sit down, bring the scientists, let's see what's going on in the world outside there.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us, UDM leader BANTU HOLOMISA. We get more reaction now by Sinao Tambo, who's the EFF spokesperson. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Please do share your thoughts, including on what the UDM leader was talking about, specifically in terms of alternative sources of energy. The gas sector is something that is of much debate, saying that in developing it, we still need to balance supply and demand while doing that on stream in tandem.
Look, as the EFF, we do not think that there will be any reprieve for the rolling blackouts which are characterizing South African society today, because what Cyril Ramaphosa has uttered in his 45-minute address is just a reiteration and recommitment to the privatization of energy generation, distribution, and transmission in South Africa. He has outlined further reliance on independent power producers, which has yielded no results in the past. He has established yet another committee, calling it a National Energy Crisis Committee, comprised of failed ministers who've been unable to lead us out of this energy crisis over the past decade. And now he's calling for the establishment of entities which are going to have their own boards to control the transmission, generation, and distribution of electricity, basically setting up private firms which are going to run the electricity sector in South Africa and hike prices and make electricity unaffordable for the poor. So there's no interest in exploring genuine alternatives to energy in South Africa. The only commitment is the abandonment of coal with a baseless and empty rhetoric around the just transition from coal as a natural resource which can produce energy, while not providing any solution to how jobs are going to be created. While China, one of the most developed societies in the world, has built a massive coal power station which is going to produce energy for them as well. So there's nothing but a recommitment to what Ramaphosa was summoned for to the G7, what instructions have been given by the UK Parliament, which discusses the domestic affairs of South Africa as if they're still a colony. And we don't see any end in sight for the rolling blackouts, which can be led, and we don't think we can be led out of this crisis. Ramaphosa, Pravin Gordhan, and any of the cronies that we seem to be fearful of, and utilize his agenda of privatizing energy.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's get to the IFP's Mkhuleko Hlengwa now to hear what their thoughts are on what the President announced. The President earlier saying that the Treasury will develop a sustainable solution to deal with Eskom's debt before the medium-term budget policy statement in October later on. And he was also saying that, you know, in terms of the power stations, the remaining units at Medupi and Kusile will be brought online as quickly as possible. There's been a great deal of skepticism around this. Mkhuleko Hlengwa, IFP spokesperson, thank you so much for speaking to us. Your reaction to what the President said, particularly on the issue of a sustainable debt resolution for Eskom by the medium-term budget speech.
Well, thank you very much. The President, of course, the people presented a very wide set of ideas which need to be consolidated into a practical, actionable plan. And that plan is going to be determined by putting money into the plan. And so At this point in time, things are very unclear in terms of how things are going to move forward. We welcome, of course, the fact that the President has been consulting on this matter and that we participated in his consultation as the IFP this morning. However, what does transpire again is that the President is shifting goalposts. Amongst others, the creation of the crisis committee in the presidency continues to create a mega presidency, and it missed an opportunity this evening to move Eskom from the Department of Public Enterprises to the Department of Minerals, precisely because a lot of the energy interventions which will have to take place moving forward are in that department. So the accountability chain in itself continues to be vague, and we need to be able to hold the President and his government to account on the basis of a clear operational framework. There's unbundling that is going to be taking place, splitting Eskom into three. You'll recall that during the First Nation address, the President also announced the establishment of a holding company insofar as SOEs are concerned. So the involvement of the private sector, which is a welcome move, and we've been calling for it, particularly in strategic areas, and public-private partnerships are going to assist. We're still uncertain insofar as government's own role in this regard, and the fact that there have been no consequences at Eskom, and the President speaking about sabotage today as well, yet we haven't seen it, is an indication that government hasn't wholly been able to figure out since 2008 how to respond to these challenges which arise out of load shedding and load shedding itself. So we welcome the fact that the President is applying this and is to a large extent been able to give an idea of government's own thinking. But at this point in time, all he has given is a statement of intent, a set of ideas which will actually need to be tested insofar as the budget is concerned, because all these things require money. And what we have always maintained as the IFP is not to throw financial solutions to non-financial problems, because you do need to actually have strategic reforms in these areas and policy shifts which are required. And so the bills that they'll be bringing to Parliament must provide the clarity which is needed insofar as the outlook is concerned. And we are calling for further finances to be made available to municipalities to be able to sustain themselves as well.
Thank you so much for your time. Let's move on now to VUYOLWETHU ZUNGULA of ATM to get your point of view on what the President has announced earlier on. Would you characterize it as a plan that meets up with the intention of energy emergency and doesn't line up with the projected modelling of Eskom for 2030?
Evening, Tabitha, and to your viewers. What we are seeing as the ATM is that the President clearly is on a mission to privatize as many entities as possible. This is what he has done tonight. He's made an announcement about privatization in effect. Because if you look at the nature of the problem here is on the 17,000 megawatts that is broken on a daily basis, that is making Eskom not to be able to have enough capacity to deliver to the people. However, you don't see the President having any thorough plan, any focus on improving state capacity or the capacity of Eskom in order to meet the demand. The only focus that he has is on ensuring that his independent power producer friends are able to enter into the market, benefit from the grid lines of Eskom, and just benefit from the problems that are generated by Eskom itself and the government. Secondly, you've got a President that wants to appear as a savior on the problems that he has created. You'll remember in 2014, he was appointed the chairman of the war room. And in 2018, the load shedding was starting in the recent years. So if you look at what he has done, basically, he wants to posture himself as a savior, because this could have been done by the Ministry of Energy or the Ministry of Public Enterprises or the CEO of Eskom himself, but he decides to appear as if he's taking the credit. So what you are seeing is the ATM. It's what we don't agree with, and it's what makes us believe that Ramaphosa does not have the best interest of the people at heart, because he's doing nothing that will actually improve the livelihoods of the people. Because even these jobs from these ITPs or these private investors, it will be jobs that will be given to other, it will be jobs that are going to be transferred to those entities, basically that are coming also from other countries. It is not jobs that will be kept locally in our country.
All right, thank you very much. Dennis Bloem-Cope's spokesperson at this stage to speak to us about what the president was saying. What is your reaction? And I want to particularly talk about the availability of diesel supply for the open cycle gas turbines. President said that is being improved. Do you get a sense of the detail to how this is being improved?
So our biggest concern is that the president is announcing very big plans to solve these problems of Eskom. But we must, all of us must remember that Eskom is in a debt of 400 billion rand. Now, I don't understand where will this money come from. The president is saying we are going to import power from neighboring countries and so on. Supplies power will be. Where will this money come from? We are bankrupt. Now, the president is talking about things above the head of the ordinary people. The people in Soweto want power. The people don't want this load shedding. Now, this is a plan that the president is talking about. We can say a good plan, but the implementation of this plan will take years to implement this thing. We must never forget, Tepiso, that this problem is here because of state capture. The ANC has messed up Eskom. Now we are sitting with plans that will take years to implement, and we will be lucky if they are going to implement this plan. It is very difficult. We welcome the announcement that the president is making to recruit skilled people back into Eskom, because nobody wants to see this load shedding. Load shedding is disrupting the lives of everybody. Businesses are collapsing. People are losing their jobs left, right, and center. We thought and expected the president will announce and address these type of things. But the president is talking about big English that the ordinary person in the village, in the rural areas, don't understand about solar and all that. President must come to the level of the people, because the people on the ground are suffering because of this load shedding.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's get reaction now from Dr. Pieter GROENEWALD of the Freedom Front Plus. A great deal of the argument that has been made on how to fix the problem has been to erode the monopoly of Eskom and to boost small-scale private electricity production. Do you get a sense of this, and are there loopholes that exist that could see this go sideways?
Yeah, well, firstly, let me say that I welcome the fact that we're not going to have any state of disaster or state of emergency, and the president actually admitted that it is not necessary. Now, I also want to say that this is also proof that the government was asleep. It's too little too late in a certain sense. The steps announced tonight was actually part of what the Freedom Front Plus said over years that should be taken. The Eskom crisis has not developed only now, it's coming over years. Just to give you one example, the President spoke about regulations and red tape coming to private power producers and also households, coming more closer to your question. They started with that process 3 years ago. Now the question is, why did it take so long? Are we going to wait another 3 years before we're going to get in practice what the President said and what he preached? Now, we also said in the Freedom Front Plus, the only solution for our power crisis in electricity crisis in South Africa is that producers must enter the market. We must privatize and allow people to deliver electricity to the network. It's only now that the President said that they opened the doors for that. I also said this morning in the meeting with the President, it's no use trying to encourage specifically households to put up solar panels, but then Eskom goes to NASA and wants a basic fee of 938 rand. That just doesn't make sense. It will discourage households to produce. And yes, of course, renewable energy is the solution for the future. And we must more vigorously ensure that those people get on board. And in the end, we must also say, and I also said that to the President this morning in the meeting, they want former employees to come and assist, specifically plant managers, professionals like engineers, and I requested them, let's do away with affirmative action when we talk about this. Let's get the best people on merit and merit alone to ensure that we try to save Eskom. There is a real willingness from former employees to contribute to solve the problem.
All right,
and
Dr.
we must always
Peter.
remember, a sabotage of Eskom is a sabotage of the economy.